Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you so much for being here and for hanging out with us on this fine, fabulous Saturday morning. When I am done today, I get to go to a coin show, go meet up with Check Stacker. Me and Bifrost are going to go up, check out the coin show, and go hang out with him for a little bit. Maybe do another little live, how you doing from the coin show, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. Sue, what's going on? Jack Riley, good morning, sir. Looking forward to chatting a lot more with you tomorrow when we talk more about the coins themselves. Today we're going to be talking about New Orleans, but we're going to do something a little bit different. We've tried this the last couple of weeks. It seems to be something that people like, and that is tell a story, do some fun facts, get people familiar with the topic, and then the following day, which in this case is Sunday, we break down the coins, we talk about those particular items, and we dig into it. So thank you all for being here. What's up, Farm Dog? Good to see you. Eric, how you doing, sir?
Doing well, doing well.
What's on your guys' agenda for today?
I'm just gonna do this and do a couple of reveals and then start working on photographs again. I'm almost caught up. I'm literally down to about 30 coins. Not all of them need to be photographed either.
But you're getting it all done.
I'm getting it done, and some of them have been a while. Some of them are 30 or 40 reveals back. So all the singles are done.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're catching up. I know that it can be daunting to have to catch up for a bunch of work. So
It seems like one thing after another, like usual.
oh yeah, absolutely understand. All right, let's see. How's it going, everybody? Me is here. What's going on, Me? How you doing, bud? Good to see you. Eric Coppercoins, yes, that is Eric of Coppercoins. That is indeed him. Let's do something real quick. I want to check and see if something is turned on, just to make sure that I have everything finished. I hope everybody's doing well. It has been an interesting kind of few weeks for people, and so I appreciate you all being here, coming in. We're going to give just a few more minutes, let a few more people come in, and then we're going to go ahead and break down this story. I hope this is something you guys enjoy. I enjoy doing this stuff for you, but I believe that we should have fun today. Sorcerer Stan, what's up? Good to see you. Nana Stacks, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. All right, well, let's go ahead and without further ado, all the stuff is set up. We should be good to go. Eric Byer, 5 gifted memberships. Mike, he's going to like that. Newbie Coin Nerd, Woodsy, William E., and Ken Zui. Congratulations on your membership. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that, brother. All right. So as we've been talking about, what we're going to do is something just a little bit different today. So I'm going to read a story. And I wrote this story the last couple of days. There's a couple of people in chat who have read over it, listened, provided feedback. And it's about the New Orleans Mint. Now, it's a factual based item, but it's a fictional story. Hope that makes sense. Follow along, you'll enjoy it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first set the scenario, and then I'm going to go over the story. So I hope everybody's doing well, but let's go ahead and dig on in. Clear my throat, get this ready, and get my reading voice on. All right. Picture yourself sitting in a sanctuary, completely hidden away from the crisp, biting chill of the December air outside. Inside, the world is warm. The fireplace softly crackling, the kind of sound that makes you want to close your eyes and listen. And while the flames cast this dancing, flickering shadow across the shelves that line every inch in classic book, Sitting there, cross-legged on the floor, is a grandfather, wearing the old faded Navy veteran's jacket that he loves so much. Scattered all around him on the rug are black and white photographs, pictures of young men in uniform, his old shipmates from a lifetime ago. Nestled right beside him are his grandson Leo and his granddaughter Mal. They're sitting close, absolutely mesmerized by the old pictures that are spread out on the floor. And after a moment, grandfather reaches over and picks up a small, heavy book. Carefully opening it, his hands moving with practiced gentleness, removes 2 coins. Kids, in a low, gravelly voice, have I ever told you why I love our country? He places 1 coin into Leo's hand and then places another into Mal's, closes their little fingers over the metal, and says, our family's legacy lies in service to our country. He looks at both child. And while not all of us are called to fight, there's lots of ways for us to be of service. Our family has and is legacy. Its legacy is tied to the very foundation of this nation. And he once again points to the coins in their hands. Grandpa leans over to the locked table that sits beside the couch. You hear the sudden lock, and he pulls out a very old, substantial album of coins. He settles back down and said, my grandfather sat me down when I was just your age. And he taps on the cover of the book and said, he told me about our nation's past. It wasn't just history from a school book. It was the story he lived, what he lived through, what story he experienced. They were also stories that were passed down from his grandpa and his grandpa before him. Stories of the very coins that he collected to remember those events. And now, here for you two to finally see. The room went quiet for just a few moments as the sound of the fire popping heavy filled the room. You could only hear that and the turning of the heavy coin pages. Grandpa turns a page, revealing silver coins and this wonderful typeset book, glitters gold. He goes back all the way to the very first coins struck by our nation. Your great-great-great-grandpa, pointing at a specific coin, had this very first dollar, the 1795 flowing hair. It's beautiful, isn't it? The founding of our nation's money was underway, and as a nation, we were growing. As Papa turned the page, Leo's eyes widen and he leans in and he looks at a coin from the Confederate era. Grandpa, that's a Confederate $50. Leo squints at the silver. Is that an O on the back? What does that mean? Grandpa gently smiles. He shifts his weight to the side, takes his old Navy jacket off as it's getting warmer in the room, and he says that O stands for New Orleans. And it's a story about our time when our nation was broke. Mal looks up, tilting her head. Was that during the Great Depression, Grandpa? Grandpa smiles with a genuine warmth in his eyes. Now this little girl knows history. Pats her on the shoulder and says, but no, honey, this is a different kind of broke. I guess I should have said when the country was broken. I think it's time for a story. So they shifted around, they got comfortable together, nestled on the old couch, the leather creaking softly underneath them. Leo on the left, Mal on the right, still holding those silver $50 tightly in their hands. Grandpa takes a deep breath and begins. The New Orleans Mint, built back in 1838. It was an amazing place out there because New Orleans was the gateway to America. It was a massive trade port, and you see the Treasury needed American money to add legitimacy to the bigger part of what was international business. So the mint was built right there to turn silver and gold into coins for our growing country. He looks at the both and he says, do you remember when I told you guys about the California gold rush of 1849? Both kids kind of nod and yes, happily. He says, well, back in the 50s, the California gold rush, New Orleans became a bustling place. The mint was roaring. People would bring chunks of gold that they dug out of the ground. They melted it into gold rounds or bars. We call it bullion, but the mint would take that shiny gold coin and turn it into mostly double eagles, the $20 ones. Grandpa, pausing for effect, slowly reaches into his pocket and pulls out a gold coin. It glimmers in the firelight. It's an 1854 $20 gold coin. Leo jumps up and he's like, "Whoa, they're worth way more than that now, aren't they, Grandpa?" Grandpa chuckles and says, "Indeed they are, and I'm glad you're learning about the value of these coins." He smiles and slides the heavy gold coin back into his pocket. His face turns a little bit more serious. Holds up a finger and says, "But there is something strange that I want to tell you, and that is that silver would change in the coins in years to come, specifically the dimes and the quarters." Grandpa reaches into the book and pulls out 2 seated Liberty half dimes, sets them in their hands, and said the market value of the silver in this was more than 10 cents. And people figured that out. And you know what they did? They started melting them down. They started taking those dimes and quarters and turning them into pure silver for profit. And most of it ended up overseas. The country was running out of change. Leo laughs. "Grandpa, that was on the news last week. You're getting this all mixed up." Grandpa smiles and he shakes his head. Says, "I know, son. History has a funny way of repeating itself, doesn't it?" He continues. So the 1853, Congress passed a law. They decided to make silver coins, well, let's just say a little bit lighter. Not enough for you to really notice in your pocket, but enough that people wouldn't want to melt them down anymore. Grandpa looks over at Mal and says, "Have you ever been really thirsty?" She goes, "Yeah, when it's hot and I'm playing outside." He goes, "Well, imagine filling your cup full of rocks and then putting water over the top of it, only later to realize you wasted all that space for the water." The mint understood that if you put other metals in the coin, there would be less silver. Mallory's face lights up and says, "Oh, I get it, Grandpa. People were getting less silver, meaning they had less money." And that's exactly right, Grandpa said. The New Orleans Mint started pumping these out, and this bothered people. Grandpa's mood became a little bit somber again as the fire continued to pop in the quiet room. "Leo, open your hand," Grandpa exclaimed. Leo's hand opened, and there was an 1861 mint mark seated half. Gem BU for certain. Leo, then came the Civil War. See, the soldiers took over the mint and basically shut it down. And for almost 20 years, that place grew silent. No clinking of coins, just dust and echoes. Grandfather looked at Mal and said, "Hey, sweetheart, open your hand." A little bit of hesitation. She opens it up. And she goes, "Now, this $50 that you're holding is dated 1863. Look at the back." She goes, "It's blank, Grandpa. Is this an error?" And he chuckles softly and says, "No, sweetheart, it's not an error. But that blank space tells a lot. It actually tells the biggest story of all." Grandfather lowers his voice just a little bit. He says, "It tells about the Civil War." Looks a little bit confused. Mal notices a change in her grandpa's tone. "Are you okay, Grandpa?" She heard the inflection in his voice change. He comforts. His granddaughter says, "Yeah, honey, but it was a tragedy. That's all." Mal leans in and hugs her grandpa tight. He says, "It was a time when families were broken, a time when brother fought against brother and father fought against son. It was a tough time in our history. Our country was divided. The old mint that was supposed to represent one unified currency for all, it just couldn't do its job." And Grandpa goes on saying that the Confederate States took over in 1861, and they did strike some coins for a short time. Matter of fact, that coin could be one of 3 different things, depending upon exactly when it was pressed. Unfortunately, more conflict, they ran out of supplies, and by 1863, the year on this coin, the New Orleans Mint stood silent and empty for the rest of the war. Now, that coin was made in Philadelphia, and it's a reminder that the first branch of mints that the United States closed because, well, the country was broken. He pulls out another book, this one, Worn Edges, and it has sketches of the Mint building. This silent building became a symbol of struggle. And he points to a drawing in the facade. This is sad. When Union forces finally took back New Orleans in 1862, they wanted to represent the country. They put a flag over the top of the mint. But there was a local gambler, William Mumford. He was really angry that the city was back under federal control, and he climbed up that building, tore it down, shredded it up, and actually used a piece of the flag for a buttonhole. The kid's eyes got wide and said, "Well, what happened, Grandpa?" It's like, well, they captured him and they wanted to make him aware. They wanted to make him something that people would understand this wasn't acceptable. And after a quick stop on a sudden drop, he was punished right there outside the Mint building. It was terrible, a horrible moment. But it was a grim reminder of how deep the divisions ran and how the fight over the flag and the government and what they represented. He wanted to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. And he said, but even the coins can tell about struggle and success. Leroy, he shakes his head and he's like, how does it tell about success? And he goes, well, one of the first coins we talked about was that 1838 O, very limited and scarce issue. One of the first dimes ever struck there. And it was a sign of great hope. Years later, that 1854 O double eagle became another key date. And, well, they barely struck any, making it incredibly scarce. Mal gives Grandpa that sheepishly flirtatious smile. Like the one in your grandpa, she asks? Or the one in your pocket, Grandpa, she asks? He says, well, let's just say that if somebody found one in nice shape, it would be worth a hefty price. Tapping his pocket. But the mint was often at the mercy of gold and silver supplies that flowed into the city. And because of this, Grandpa went into a moment of silence. He started staring at the fire, pondering the story of another U.S. mint that we talked about recently, Carson City. It was a story that his grandfather told to him, and all of a sudden he found himself drifting westward. Mal tugs on his sleeve. What happened next, Grandpa? She blinks and he snapped back into the room. She's like, sorry, sweetheart. I was thinking about my grandpa. But that's a story for another time. He clears his throat, and during the silence, Congress passed another law, 1873. Now, this many people called the crime of 73. And by some folks, it literally took silver out of the running for being part of our money. Gold was boss, and they wanted to make sure that, those big silver dollars just didn't really kind of happen anymore. They wanted everything really to be based off the value of gold. And he looks at the kids to make sure that they were understanding. He says, but not everybody happy gold was boss. See, there were miners and farmers, and people wanted those big silver coins. A lot of people were working people, and gold was just too much to carry, too much for them to trust to the banks. And after some change, people finally got what they wanted. And in 1878, Congress gave a little bit of a cushion called the Bland-Allison Act. Now, this law was like an alarm clock for the New Orleans Mint. They ordered a bunch of silver coins. These, pointing at the large, shiny coin on the page. Leo's eyes light up with glee. I love the Morgans, he exclaims. His grandpa chuckles lightly. I love those too, son. But they needed a big place to stamp out all that silver. So guess where they did that? Yeah, New Orleans. They fixed it up, and in 1879, the machine started roaring again. And for years, the main job of that mint was to stamp out these big, beautiful, heavy silver dollars, more than any other coin. It was like they were making up for some lost time. He traces the rim of the book, and he kept making gold coins too, he says. But the real purpose of that building in those last years was to handle the silver. And by 1900, that Gold Standards Act, yeah, it just said that gold was going to be king. And the mintages and everything just started falling off. And by 1909, they stopped producing coins. They stayed open as an office for a couple more years, but they closed for good in 1911. He points to the design in the kid's hands. He says, but I want you to understand the importance of this. All of these early coins that I just showed you featured the seated liberty design, and it was created by a man named Christian Kobrek. He was the chief engraver of Philadelphia. But the fact that the design started in the North and was stamped onto coins in the South showed that, at least in our money, the nation was one. Grandpa leaned in like he was sharing a secret. He says, but did you know that before they closed, they had one more interesting job? It actually happened a few years before, and he pulls out a 20 centavos. So this is a Mexican coin. It was minted in 1907, and it was the only time that New Orleans mint a foreign coin. But it showed that even after all the heartache and the heartbreak, the U.S. and the Mint's mission remained connected to the world's economy. He looked directly at Leo now and expressed something very seriously. He says, son, the New Orleans built and the coins it made represent lots and lots of stories, good and bad. It represents a divided nation, but one that in time recovers. And sometimes, kid, well, the road to recovery in and of itself can be a tough, tough road. Mal speaks up and says, but don't worry, Leo, we can still go to the museum, right, Grandpa? Grandpa smiles and says, that's right, that old building is now a museum. And those little coins in your hand represent not just the struggles, but those who help shape who we are today. He gently took the 2 coins back from the kids, gave them a gentle kiss, gesturing a deep respect for the coin. Hands them back to the kids and says, go put those in your typeset books. Go now. He says, those are keepers. But not just because they're silver or because the coins are in great shape. Keep them because of the story. The struggle, the closure, the opening, the defiance, and the reconnection with the United States. Those coins help us to connect with the amazing histories of our past and to remember that we can once again become a whole nation. Grandpa leans back, looking at him with pride, and says, one day you will sit down with your sons or daughters and have the same conversation about that coin book that you're filling now. We are all just temporary owners of the coins, but we are all tellers of their stories. I hope you guys like that. What'd you think, Eric? I think I put Eric to sleep. I think I put Eric to sleep. What do you guys think? Did you guys enjoy that? I hope you guys did. I enjoyed putting that story together. I enjoyed doing the writing for that. Thank you. He's quiet. Yeah. The thing I like about writing is I like numismatics and coin collecting because of the stories. And for the last couple of years, we've been trying to figure out what this channel is. And I want to include a story every weekend. And I think that this pattern of telling a story, talking about some fun facts, Eric and I have got some fun facts that we're going to talk about for New Orleans over the next little bit, to have just some general conversation. But I want you guys in chat to engage as well. And tell us stories that you have. If you have old mint mark coins, get them together, because tomorrow morning we're going to talk about a ton of items, things to look forward to, things to look at, how to identify the authenticity of something. to talk about counterfeits and some of the families that are out there. We're going to be going over something that Jack Riley's put together, showing some coins, kind of talking through some of that stuff. So the way I know that you guys really want to see this is share it out, comment, let people know, if you know people that like stories or stuff like that, share it, right? Let's get this community growing. Let's get this community going. And let's tell those stories. Let's have some fun. Let's get people interested in this, and then break it down and talk about the coins themselves. So, Eric, let's chat New Orleans. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is that 1861 coin. There is no sound, or it's just me. I hear sound. I can hear you typing. Are you there? Yeah, it's got to be Eric. Let's do this. I'll have him leave and then come back in, see if that works. Because we should be good. I can hear him in the background. I can hear him typing and stuff, but there may be something with his mic. So let's look at the 1861. So that 1861, one of the cool things about that particular coin was that as I started looking at the 1861 half dollar, and I've got the coins here, I'm going to share my screen and pull some of these up. One thing I enjoy, and this is a site that I really enjoy looking at, is the NGC site for what's it called? Just a sec. Why is it not doing this? Here we go. I actually got to click on the page to do this. Okay, so let's open this up and let's show this full screen. Okay, so when you come down here, I like the, again, not affiliated with NGC Coin, but I like coming down here. So when we go to the half dollars and we come to that 1854, come under the seated, and then you can check out the, or excuse me, the 1861. One thing about this particular coin is that depending upon when in the cycle of this coin you look, so January, February, it's going to be done by the federal government. If you do look at it, February to June, it's going to be done by the Confederacy. And if you look at it from July on, or whatever the dates are, it's going to be something that's pulled up through the Confederacy. And so depending upon when in that time frame, this coin could be from one of the three different positions. So I really like that kind of oddball information that happens with this particular coin. It is really nice, but the other one that I really wanted to show you was this one. And this one is one of my favorite coins. I really enjoy the story behind the development of this particular coin. There's a typeset that has this general reverse on it that I enjoyed. And when I talked about having, a really nice version sitting in his grandpa's pocket, again, in XF condition, you're looking at a $315,000 coin. So when I was talking about the story, I was bringing factual setting or fictional settings, but really talking about the authenticity of the story and the coins and the history, and trying to bring in some fun pieces that are there. Luther, does any Confederate coin still exist? Yes. I don't know about the dies. I think they have some at the Smithsonian. They're the Institute of Art or whatever that the name of that place is. I can't remember what the coin museum is there, but they probably have one in there. I can find out and see. What's going on, Walter? How you doing, bud? Good to see you. The dies, I've seen coins. Yeah, I've seen the coins, but I think they have. Well, they have the typeset of this particular one. I'll get into that one real quick. Let's get there, and I'll show you that typeset. I love this. I love this page, by the way. Trial and pattern coins, 1854. No, that's not it. It's hard to do this by the numbers. Oh, you know what? These aren't pattern coins. That's why. I need to get to that is pattern. Oh, there's Eric. You back? I can't hear you at all. You're there. I can see you. I just have no audio. You're not muted, and you have sound, so I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, brother. Sorry. So again, looking at this, it's a lot of fun to look at some of these. I've got to find where those patterns. One of my favorite coins is here, though, from New Orleans. This is one of the coins, the kind of piece de resistance pieces that I want. Again, $3 coin. XF, you're looking at a $4,000 coin. Just cool stuff. Lots of cool stuff from the New Orleans Mint Mark, but lots of fun. I'm not sure what's going on with Eric. Sorry, bud. Numbers have meanings. Figure number system out. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's happening with some of these pieces. I hear you in the background, Eric. Speak. Eric. You can hear him type. Interesting. Not sure what's going on there. Hey, what's going on, good sniping, gold sniping farmer? How you doing? I know someone that just bought a $3 gold recently. Yeah, I need one of these for my typeset book. This is going to be probably one of the next ones I find. I just like this one. It's the only one from New Orleans, so it's a pretty cool piece. Of course, this is one of the bigger ones. You want to spend a bunch of money, get that closed 3, the 1873. So yeah, fun stuff. Well, he can speak. He doesn't have any audio on his end. It's probably his speakers. So there's probably something with what's happening. Robert the Bruce, what's up, bud? How you doing? Good to see you. What's up, Sean? How are you doing? Good to see you. But yeah, I just enjoy the stories. It's one of those things that it's fun to do and to have those conversations about what's going on. Now, the William Mumford story, for those of you who had not heard that before, I didn't really know about that story till I was trying to put this together. I knew that somebody had been hung. I didn't know what had gone on for that. But when I was looking at that on June 7th, 1862, it's there's a famous ghost story that happens in New Orleans, and it based off of this situation with William Mumford. And basically, he was just really mad. He climbed up the roof, tore down the flag, completely shredded it, and then wore one piece as a buttonhole. General Benjamin Beast, they called him, the Beast, his last name was Butler, wanted to make an example of him. And so they convicted him for treason. Again, it was a big deal back in those days. You don't mess with the United States flag. And they did it right there, horizontal flagpole projecting out from the Mints front portico. So that was something that I didn't know. I did not know that that had happened there. I knew somebody had been punished. I was not aware of exactly what was going on with that. But that was fun. One of the other things that we were looking at, and again, you see the coins there on my screen. I'll make this big so that you can see these. You have the two there. You guys also know that I like collecting hoards. And the 1886 O, I think it's 1886 or it's 1884 O. This coin on the right-hand side is from the Great Northwestern Collection. And one of the reasons that I like hoards, one of the reasons that I like the connection with hoards is that one of the most famous phantom rarity, I talk about this all the time. It's just one of those things that in my book is one of those things, one of those primary reasons why you shouldn't use numismatics as an investment. And you've got to be careful with things like the word rarity. And we go back to that 1903 O, and that's a Morgan dollar. Now, why does this matter? Well, unfortunately, what happens, and we've talked about this with the Lincoln cent, we've talked about this with the other coins that are out there, but primarily with the Morgans because of this particular coin. And what happened was that for many, many, many years, it was considered the rarest of the coins in existence when it comes to the Morgan dollars. The prices on this were into the tens of thousands. And October 1962, the Treasury decided that they were going to do an audit. They were going to review some items. And in a sealed vault in Philadelphia, they found hundreds of thousands of these pristine 1903 O dollars. Now, they were sitting in canvas bags. They had beautiful condition. And overnight, this particular coin went from being the king of Morgan rarities to a relatively common coin. And so, again, it's when you're looking at things like this, there's always the potential for a hoard to appear. There's always potential for what was supposed to be a big sell-off. We talk about the Pittman Act and things like that, where silver was melted. There's lots of opportunities to find stuff that maybe disappeared on the books, but wasn't actually gone. And the 1903 O is one of those that it's just a huge reminder that it can happen. I don't know if Eric has his audio back. Can you hear yet, Eric? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, yeah, no problem, bud. Take care of yourself. I know last Sunday I was having some massive issues, so I absolutely feel for you. One of the other things, and this is something that I'm waiting on a very cool and very scarce 1900 O counterfeit to come in. Yes. We'll talk a little bit about that if everything pans out. Jack Stacker, what's up, brother? I'm on my way to the coin show. I will be heading that way as soon as we're done streaming. I'll go get Bifrost up. We'll get our stuff together, and we're going to head up that way for a couple hours. We have some other plans this evening, so we won't be there very long, but we'll come up and hang out at the show with you. So we're looking forward to seeing you, brother. We should see you probably around the 11 o'clock hour. So hopefully it still holds true. depending upon traffic. We got a massive closure down here in the south or north end of San Antonio, so we'll have to see how that affects the commute over there. But I will message you and let you know what's going on. Silver Paws, what's going up? Good morning. How you doing? Thanks for popping in and saying hi. And again, folks, if you enjoyed this stuff, share it out, subscribe to the channel, and let's move this channel. One of the things that Eric was going to talk about was the fact that New Orleans is swampy, right? And so one of the things that happened originally when they started building on this was that they were building on top of a Spanish fort. And this is something that originally it was one of 5 of the defensive forts that protected New Orleans during the Spanish rule. I think it actually went into the French rule as well. And as they started to build this giant building, they started to understand that the builders in Philadelphia didn't quite understand how to build on no sound in Restream. That doesn't make any sense because you're there. I wonder if you have you may have to go into audio. You may have turned off your audio in Restream. We'll have to come back up and look at that and see if that's what's going on. But the architect had never really been there, hadn't really looked at what was going on, and Mr. Strickland, who actually designed it, ended up having to go in and reinforce it with iron rods to keep it from collapsing under its own weight. Again, didn't do a proper assessment, didn't really go in, look at what was happening at that area, and built it like they had done Philadelphia. Now, you guys know Philadelphia during the time, it's still the nation's powerhouse when it comes to coins. And so that big building, that giant structure that was built in Philadelphia is something that we're going to be talking about here in a couple of weeks, because the structure at Philadelphia actually allowed coin production in the United States to actually become a thing. Before then, there were so many competing priorities with silver and French coinage that until 1854, when that act passed that said you can't do this anymore, you can't use silver coinage or coinage from another country, it needs to be manufactured here in the U.S. This act prevented like the reals and stuff from being used. And because of that, there became a bigger demand. And so Philadelphia really ramped things up to start producing more coinage. And during that time frame, again, this crime of 73, making making it the gold standard, there were a lot of people who were big on silver, and they didn't like this. And so for a number of years, they were back and forth. And the Bland-Allison Act, which again was talked about in the story, was kind of a way for the mint to silence the frustration from those people who were really bullish on silver. They really enjoyed silver. They really enjoyed holding it because, again, these are, 2 coins might have been your entire week's wages. To have a $1 gold coin may have been the encompass of that, but you didn't want to carry that around. Could you imagine, getting paid a week wages and a single coin, and you step off your carriage, all of a sudden it falls into the mud, and boom, you've just lost your money. So a lot of people didn't like the fact that they had to carry gold around. So the United States Mint came together, passed another law, and then with the Bland-Allison Act, started producing a bunch of things. One of the things that would happen years after the fact that have really affect the mintages, and we've talked about this a number of times, specifically when we look at this general time frame, is what happened in the Pittman Act. The Pittman Act, a ton of these coins, primarily affecting Carson City, but tons and tons and tons and tons of silver coins were melted down and sold to Europe to get England back on track, right? And they changed, revalued at that time frame, and really kind of changed the general structure of how things were done. That change didn't have any impact on New Orleans closing, or so they say. It could have been something that was done years ahead of time. But there were a lot of changes that the Mint was going through. And just a couple years after the Mint would close in 1911, we would have the worst Christmas gift ever. The Federal Reserve would create that act, and we would get that whole lovely thing that all the stackers out there really enjoy. And so there was a really dynamic time in the country's financial structure and the way that things worked. During this time frame, again, you had the closures of Delanogue and Charlotte, which impacted how many gold coins were produced. But again, just the New Orleans Mint has lots and lots of fun stories regarding this. I got a lot of sleep last night, Vinny. I didn't hardly get any. My goofy butt went to a Christmas party, and at 10 o'clock at night, I decided to have a cranberry vodka and Red Bull. And Red Bull and me don't go hand in hand together at 10 o'clock. So I slept for about an hour and a half, and then I was up with the early birds. I just could not sleep. So if I sound a little bit delirious, that might be why. Let's see. Let's go back through and check chat and see what's going on. There is a cool story with an 1888 Morgan. Terrible year, but if you want to research dies, it's an interesting story. I am the creature from Jekyll Island. Yeah, it's absolutely true. Our nation was going through a really difficult time, and that was a massive shift in the way our country would operate. It's actually one of the many things that caused kind of a sterilization, and I say this with respect, but a sterilization of our economy. It helped a lot of things, but it hurt a lot of things at the same time. Let's get back to, what's up, Ashes? How you doing, bud? Good to see you. You have to find the VAM thing I did for this past year. No worries. You know where to send it to me. Plus, later on, I want to get with you, Jack, and talk about tomorrow anyway. So let's go through. We already talked about 1907, why that was important. They minted over 5 million 20 centavos for the Mexican government. That was a pretty cool thing that happened there. But what was really interesting that in 1961 and 1962, because of the structural integrity, the really thick walls, the United States Mint at New Orleans was actually listed as a designated Cold War fallout shelter. It was the prime fallout shelter for New Orleans during the height of the Cold War, and the Civil Air Defense remains on the building for years. So they still maintain a presence there, and it's still considered a safe haven in the event of a nuclear strike. So again, when they built those things back in the day, they built them to survive. They built them for defense. Obviously, our nation's money was being coined there. They had to make sure the defenses were good. And because of that, there were a lot of other uses that were identified by the other mints. And so, strangely enough, Eric and I talked about this last week when we were talking about stuff. And that was that just like the Carson City, just like Dahlonega, just like Charlotte, they all ended up turning into colleges or museums. The museum, I understand. The colleges is a little bit more interesting. And if you look at what the college was, if it's academia, I could understand how the various rooms and things like that. But could you imagine going to school and your classroom was an old vault? I mean, I think there'd be so much history in that structure. I think it'd be really cool to see that. Let's see, as your New Orleans Mint was a Coast Guard facility, and a prison. I didn't know that it was a prison. Interesting. I did know that the Coast Guard has utilized it for operations a couple times during its tenure, but I did not know about the fact that it was a prison. It makes sense looking at the structural integrity of the building. I mean, it would definitely make sense. I'd be curious if anybody ever escaped from the New Orleans Mint. That would make a fun story. Hey, Miss Aloha, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so again, lots of questions regarding what happened in 1904. 1904, the O mint mark kind of disappeared after 1909, obviously, because the mint was closing. But in 1904, there was a piece of machinery that was there, and it became so obsolete that they just were not producing quality coins. And if you look at some of the higher grades for the later O mint mark coins, they fetch really good prices. Now, you've heard me say this before, and this is something that is, it's interesting to me when we look at the terminology rarity, right? Rarity is one of those things that I've had people come into the stream and say, hey, Frosty, you know, they're talking about rarity. It's not really a rarity. It's more of a scarcity. It's not really a scarcity. It's more of a desirability thing. But above all that, the one thing that really stands out is the quality of the strikes. I'm going to shift wheels for just a minute. We have a very recent event that kind of validates that for us. And if you haven't tracked this, this is going to be something I'm just going to give you the once over. I did a full video on it, talked about some of the items. I'm just going to give you the tips of the iceberg, so to speak. But we just had the Omega Cent auction. That auction happened at Stacks and Bowers, the very last Omega pennies, 232 lots. If y'all haven't been tracking that, again, did two live streams on it. Lots of interest in this. I just released the video aspect this morning, which is only talking about that particular portion. So if you only want to watch that, you don't want to watch the full live stream, then because we talk about the semi-quincentennial, we talk about some other items. If you only want to look at the auction results and some of the interesting facts, go check that out. But the total auction sales, $16,764,500. The cool thing about this is the premium was waived. They didn't actually charge a premium in this particular auction. The average lot price, anybody want to guess? 949 just gifted 5 memberships. 949, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate your support. John Jacobs, Supreme Ginger Stacker, Designs, Dove Season, and Thomas Hill all got gifted memberships from 949. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I don't really know much about it. No worries, Vinny. These were the 232 Omega privies. Again, there were 232 lots. They ranged in price from 48,000 all the way up to a lot more. We'll talk about that in a second. Luther, 90K average. Pretty good guess. You're a little bit high. I'll give you a little bit. But yeah, there was some significant prices on here. Ashes, utter failure by the U.S. Mint, not releasing a million Omegacists to the general public, similar to the W quarters. I have a theory. The theory I talked a little bit about in that video that I just mentioned regarding this, and I think this is going to be an annual thing for the U.S. Mint. I think we're going to see this exact same structure with the highly collectible coins, probably a 250 privy, semi-quincentennial privy, and it's going to come in a couple different forms, and it's going to be a big auction. I think we're going to see an annual auction from the U.S. Mint moving forward in this general structure. We've seen what happens when they did the flowing hair metal and gold coin. We saw what happens when we looked at these 232 coins. It just seems like this is probably the direction they're going into. 70K Luther, really close. Okay, $72,260.77. That is the average lot price for the 232 coins. It's really easy to figure that out. Take 16,700,000, divide it by 232, you get that average price. The average median price, $80,000. $80,000 average, or the median price. The highest price realized, obviously, is going to be lot 232, which is the very final coin struck. It also included the dies. Now, there's an interesting piece on that. Again, go watch that video. If I can have one of my moderators drop the link to that video in their chat, I would appreciate it. And again, it was one of those things I talked about the breakdown of this. But what I want to get to here are a couple lots that I'm really looking at. A couple lots I really want to track. And one of them is lot 64. Excuse me. Why lot 64, you ask? Well, because this lot was the redheaded stepchild. This is the one that, if you're going to get something wrong, this is the one that got it wrong. And that's because it got an MS68 in the gold. Of all the gold coins, there were only 6 that got MS68. By the way, all of the $48,000 bids were the 68. There were a couple more. There were 12 total, but most of them were the MS68 in the gold. The Philadelphia coin, which was way crappier quality, I explained a little bit about why I believe that was the case. MS63, and then you have an MS65 for Denver. Denver generally had really, really nice, solid strikes. All in all, it was a way better setup for Denver. You can also look at the dies and see Denver, Philadelphia, and the gold, and you'll kind of understand. If you watch that video, you'll understand why. Being shown the minting process really does help you identify when things happen. What's up? Vote for Pedro. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Too many fingerprints on the last one. Yes, but Ashes, I got to ask you a question from a level of integrity. When the United States Mint did that, tell me that it doesn't show some integrity. They very easily could have swapped that out or staged that particular one. I was under the concern, and I'm going to say concern, not assumption, but concern, that they might have staged that and that they wouldn't show that thumbprint on the final coin. When we saw those images and I zoomed in, if you guys aren't tracking what we're talking about, we'll kind of look at that here in a little bit. I was very happy to see that they had made that one the fingerprint. That coin's going to cause problems. That's obviously one that I want to kind of monitor. But it said something about the integrity of the mint. And as much as I don't like some of the things that they do, they did win over some integrity with me. I have to give them that. I don't give the mint a lot of leeway because of some of the choices that they're making that are for profit. But yeah, again, I do have to. I'm not talking about their quality. We're not talking about the quality or their lack of observation of protocol when you're handling coins that potentially can fetch a bunch of money. They definitely dropped the ball with the ceremony and the handling of the coins. Absolutely agree. But the fact that they didn't stage that, use prepared planchets, and have the last 5 coins, which was the original rub, sell for way more money. So I was happy about that. I was happy to see that, and I was happy to see them to do that. It's going to be a problem coin, so I'm definitely going to want to watch that because I want to pay attention to what happens when that shows up. The other one that I want to look at, which is considered technically the best of the best. There were a couple different ones. 212 was one of them. Number 1 sold for $200,000. Unreal. But number 12 kind of had all those things go together. MS69 for the gold, MS66 for MS65 for Philadelphia, and MS67, one of only three. And those MS67 coins fetched way more money, way more money. And again, when you're talking about rarity, all of these are the same. So why did it go better? It's all had to do with the quality of the strike. And so I know you guys hear people say rare. I know you guys hear people say scarce. Up to 500,000, depending upon what you're looking at. But folks, really talk about the desirability. If it's that, make sure you're utilizing the right one. Or if it is, if you are talking about a genuine scarcity or a genuine rarity, there's probably less than 500, less than 5,000. There's going to be a very, very, very small vintage. These are going to be rare because there's only 232 of them. But what makes it important, what makes it valuable, is the conditional rarity of that MS67. Or the reason they score low was because of the conditional rarity of the MS68 on the low end. And so if you got one of those, Jack Riley says, I know somebody who bought one. That's awesome. Certainly, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, I think there was the one. There were two or three of them that were 66 pair. One of them was 66, 67, and 69. I think that was 212, if I remember correctly. If not, it was one of the other ones. 64, 115. Those were two of them that I'm tracking because they were the low balls, the low grades. But 115 had a 64. 64 had a 63. And so I'm going to just be looking at those because I want to see a couple of these things. This is pocket change for me. It is pocket change, but it's not circulated, which we're not going to go into. But anyway, it's something that I think we're going to see more of. I don't think this is. I think this is going to be an annual kind of thing. How much did they pay? It depends on the lot. 135. Well, hold on just a second, and I will get you there. One of the really cool things is that on the Stacks and Bowers main page, I'll pull this up and share it with you. Where is it? I wasn't going to go too much into this, but somebody's asked. If you go to this page, which is the Stacks and Bowers page, it's the Omega pennies. I'm going to just go ahead and paste that into chat. It's there. You can click on that if you want to. You can actually click on the View PDF Catalog, which actually loads all of the details of all of the coins. You see the whole thing. You see the breakdown. Or you can actually go to the lot listings. Now, I like this. The lot listings are really cool. And the reason, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. The reason that I wanted to do the lot listing is because, there we go. You can actually click on the coin. So that particular coin was lot 135. So this was the lot that was referenced, 72,500. The 24 karat gold, 69. The Philadelphia, 65. The Denver, 66. So this is the exact set. You can actually look at the coins themselves if you want to. And these are photos of the exact set. So you're going to see exactly what it is that they got. And then the certificate and the stuff that comes with it. This is a trifold laid out, and then again, it's signed by the acting director, Miss McNally. So this is going to change. I believe they have somebody else in mind. but more to come on that. But this is basically what the lot looks like. And again, you can see all the information, 3-coin set there. Fun stuff. But I do like looking back at the auction list. Again, you can come here if you want to and navigate it this way, but I like utilizing this view. I am going to wait a couple more days. Stacks and Bauer should issue this sheet that has all of the prices listed for each one of these. Once that comes out, I will make sure that I download that and make it available on the community page. Or you guys can just go to the video that I did and click in the description, and the links to these are there. So you can make sure that they're there. Frosty Star was asking Jack, I made an earlier comment regarding silver coinage. Oh, got you. No problem. I was missing part of the conversation. Azure, could you do me a favor and please let Paula know we're working? Yeah, so no problem. So Paula had a procedure on her shoulder, and then she's going to be going in this coming week, I believe, for another one of her treatments on her eyes. And so she could do with your guys' well wishes and love. So make sure you let her know that you're thinking about her. Please go to Lifecoin Q&A, comment on one of the videos. If you're on the Facebook site, you see that she posts something. She's not going to be able to do a lot of browsing. She's going to be listening to videos, probably not a lot of texting. And so just make sure you reach out and say hi. And it's nice that you do it here. I definitely appreciate that you do it here, but make sure you're sending that to her. Send her an email or doing something like that. Just let her know you're thinking about her. Her daughter and them have moved out. She has the place to herself. But here again, now she's by herself and she's had these procedures. So she's definitely feeling it. Plus, it's the holidays. So lots of stuff coming around. So reach out to her, let her know that you're thinking about her, let her know that you love her. I appreciate you bringing that up in chat, but that's the general update. So I'll give you more information. Vote for Pedro. I'm still not happy that we have to say nickel for your thoughts now. Oh, well, let me show you something. Again, whenever you want to look at something for semi-quincentennial, always go down here and check out your product release schedule, check out your all coin programs. You come through here, you see everything that's going on. If you want to go look at the commemorative coin or the semi-quincentennial stuff, it's all going to be here. The U.S. Mint did drop something. We talked a little bit about this already. I'm not going to belabor that. This is something that I talked about in the live stream the other day. The new circulating coins are here. Really cool pieces. I like this piece. This seems to be a lot of people's favorite, the dime. A lot of people are really liking the dime. What I wish they would have done with the dime, though, is I wish they'd have taken this liberty and put it in the Phrygian cap as a call to the old Morgan. But lots of great stuff. But what I want to get to is down here. So if you look under collectible coins, guess what? You see the cent. It's still here. If you look at the vintage sheet, there's going to be mintage sheets. Obviously, this is coming out. Again, folks, it's not the end of the cent. When they talk about the end of the cent, they're talking about circulation strikes. And the law still hasn't been adjusted. So they haven't demonetized the cent. It's just they're not going to be producing it. Well, they're going to be producing it, but probably for collectors. Well, they probably will sell rolls, maybe put it in your proof sets and your mint sets, and maybe sell them collectible in groups of Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, whatever. They're going to have to issue a bunch of stuff when it comes to the semi-quincentennial. It's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of demand. It's going to be interesting to see how many of those are there. But again, they're still going to be producing these. We know that they're going to be producing them. They've stated it. It's been the law since like 2012 or whatever, when they originally did the semi-quincentennial stuff. So just be tracking that. It's just you're not going to see, hopefully you don't see 26 cents in circulation. But they may happen. Some people may be get these and drop them in. But I want to go back to something that was talked about earlier. We talked about this, and this is something that was dropped by Ashes. Why didn't they do something like put the 250th Bell privy on something like this and drop 1 million of them into circulation? There's no telling they won't, right? They just haven't dropped anything on there. We know that there's going to be a couple big releases. We do know that there's going to be most likely another auction. We've seen one in 24 with the flowing hair. We've seen one 25 with the end of the scent. Semi-Quincentennial is a bigger event than both of those. I think that we're probably going to see another great big boom when it comes to some auction. Stacks and Bowers most likely will run it. I just don't know what that's going to be. It's going to be really interesting to see. So, yeah, so they're there. This is about the only coin that I don't like. I'm not a fan of the $50. It's just not something that I'm a fan of. You know, Pinocchio, this is not one of my favorite designs. They could have done so much more with this one. But that's it for the Semi-Quincentennial. So if you guys want more information on that, let me know. We can talk more about that. But the story, if we go back to New Orleans, we kind of deviated a little bit. I tend to do that. But New Orleans, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Do you guys like the story? Is there a mint that you guys want to do next? We've already done Dahlonega and Charlotte. We already did Carson City. Now we've done New Orleans. Do you want me to go to West Point, Philly, Denver, or San Fran? I'll put it up to chat. You guys let me know which one that you guys want me to do next. Again, West Point, Philly, Denver, or San Francisco. You guys put in your PDS or W, and then I will do it accordingly. So we'll go ahead and leave that in there. You guys, again, drop those down as you want to. Jack Riley says, ye old mint. Ye old mint is referring to Philadelphia, the very first one. One of three, if you guys haven't tracked out. Talked a little bit about that when we were talking about Dahlonega and Charlotte, because Philadelphia was still producing a majority of those, even though they were producing a ton of them. Philly would cover a number of streams. Yeah, Philly's a big one. Philly might be Frosty extended version, you know. There's a lot to cover in Philadelphia, a lot of history, a lot of information regarding designers, what happened there. Philadelphia is going to be a big one. I'm seeing a majority of West Point. So it looks like West Point is going to be the one that we're going to talk about next Saturday. Tomorrow, we're going to continue the conversation on New Orleans. New Orleans, we're going to be looking at some coins. Again, you see the coins that I have up here. I have two that are here, the 1904 and then the 1884 two coins that have significance for me. You see the ship coins again because of the Navy story. Again, I was in the military, served in the Navy, served at Pearl Harbor, and so I have the Pearl Harbor commemorative there in the blue felt. And then down below, the 500th anniversary of the founding of the country, 1492 to 1992. Hard to believe that coin or that round is 23 years old. It's amazing. Or he's 33 years old, 33 years old. Just amazing to think that that was so long ago. How many people even remember that they did that one? It's just unreal. So lots of fun stuff. But we'll break it down a little bit more. Jack's vote should be counted as 10. Jack's vote was voted at 10 for New Orleans. So, because he's covering most of the information tomorrow. I am going to be going through, we've got a couple of his things that he's done with micro O's. We've talked a lot about the micro O's I'm sure Jack Young will be on panel tomorrow. I'm not sure. Eric says he's got some stuff that it's a family thing that he's got to do. So Eric may not be here. It might just be Jack and myself, but we'll get all that taken care of. I am going to end a few minutes early today. I am going to get my daughter together, go get changed, and get on the road. We're going to go meet Check Stacker up north. We got to get through some traffic, so we want to get on the road. We got another Christmas party to attend to tonight, and we've got some things to take care of. So I am going to start the very, very, very busy day and get to doing this. We may go live, Chuck Stacker and myself, a little bit later, just to do how do you do, what's going on, chit chat, and we will talk about that later. The Vote for Pedro, Wounded Warrior Christmas Party, Monday night, no fundraising, just giveaways. Hope to see you there. Let's pin this. Boom, it's pinned. That'll be there. Vote for Pedro. I've got the item up here now. If you want, click on that, click on notify me, and then that will come up. I have commented in there, but click on that little notification bell. That way you'll get notification that that comes up. Very cool. 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, for those of you who are on the East Coast. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed the story and you want somebody to listen to, or maybe you're wanting to come up with something, do me a favor. If you have really interesting facts about West Point, maybe you were in the Army, maybe something like that. I've already got the idea, the construct roaming around in my head about what I'm going to do. The old Army general sitting down with his son, talking about West Point and the military and going over the coins and what they did there. I think it'd be a fun thing to do. All right, folks. Well, tomorrow again, we are going to come together to talk about New Orleans, break down the coins. Hope you enjoyed today. Be well, be blessed. I appreciate you all. Remember, random act of kindness doesn't take much to change the course of somebody's day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, and we will see you tomorrow.